You may know them for their wood glues, but did you know Titebond also has a complete selection of construction adhesives? Designed for a variety of applications, Titebond's adhesives make any building or home improvement project a breeze with their high performing and durable formulas. These adhesives are trusted by the professional, providing squeak free subfloor installations, long lasting retaining walls, and even fastener free feature walls. Check out Titebond's construction adhesives at titebond.com, including their newest award winning adhesive, Tight Grab Plus. Welcome to this special edition of the Fine Homebuilding Podcast. This is the second episode recorded live in partnership with the BS and Beer crew at the 2025 International Builder Show in Las Vegas. My sincere thanks to the panelists for our fun and interesting conversation in the construction performance zone, and to our live audience for their participation and fantastic questions. Thanks very much for listening. Well, I thought a good place to start is, can you guys tell us a little bit about what the construction performance zone is for folks who may be unfamiliar, and what's the message you're trying to deliver here?
Well, the Construction Performance Zone, I believe, was started by our betters. I don't know, Ben may know more of the history than I do, how long it's been around at IBS, but it's a very intentional offering of instruction and educational content at a show that's obviously involving a lot of manufacturers, and certainly they have R&D and they have experts in the booth, but really talking about high-performance building techniques and the various ways to accomplish that has been something that the Construction Performance Zone was designed to do far before my involvement. Ben, you brought me in. Can you give us any more history?
We're 8 years in running at this point, 4 or 5 with me involved, something like that.
If you had to give someone the elevator speech, what you're trying to accomplish here, what would it be?
We're trying to take industry best practices and share them with the attendees of IBS.
And what are like some of the key takeaways from the presentations either you did or you saw the last couple of days? I'll start you off, okay? So it looks like do a good job. Could be a singular message, am I right?
Yes.
You're telling folks to read the instructions, pay attention to how they're supposed to be doing, don't do it on the fly. Is that a fair takeaway?
That's a nice way of saying it. I generally use expletives in trying to communicate that, but yes, that's accurate.
Lap stuff correctly, I think, is one of the things that would be a takeaway.
Or pressurize the adhesives.
Okay.
Because the adhesives really do work. These tapes really are incredible if we do them properly, just like anything.
What am I missing? I mean, that's only 2 things. You guys have been here for hours. There must be lots of...
It's a lot of clever repackaging, Patrick. You know,
Mechanicals. We always forget. We always get hung up and talk about the envelope. We need to talk about the mechanicals because that's the heart and lungs of the system. So things like ERVs, ducted dehumidification, high-performance heat pump systems. These are all parts of the equation of how we're going to push this industry forward towards electrification and better use of resources.
What do you all think some of the messages you would like folks to take away from the presentations, any of you?
I think the overarching thing that we're trying to express here is that these high-performance details are not that hard to accomplish. We're trying to show how easy it is for everyone to up their game, to provide a better product, a more durable home, something that's more comfortable, something that really can be a generations-long build that hopefully will keep its occupants comfortable and safe and require very little upkeep in cost to operate as well as repair. So if we can show them and show each other, because obviously I'm learning a lot of these too, how simple a lot of these little adjustments can be to really dial the performance way up, introduce a few new products, a new technique, and get the perspective of people that are different from what I see every day. I've never built in Ontario. Toronto is a totally different animal. So I can talk to Connor and learn 6 new things in just a short conversation. And when we bring in all these excellent experts, Randy Williams from Climate Zone 7, being able to talk about exterior insulation with him and building performance with Ross Trethewey up in Boston, like you're going across climate zones, you're going through different markets, different types of building assemblies, and you get to take giant leaps forward in your understanding because you're culling all that information together in a very condensed package.
Emily, did you have any things that you've observed that the presentations are showing that you think are valuable takeaways for folks doing this work?
one of the things, and I was going to say the same thing that Travis had said, is it doesn't have to be that hard. But one of the best parts about the construction performance zone is you guys can show sequencing in a really small like window. And I think that's not something that happens a lot when they're trying to look at a new product. They're like, okay, well, when do I do this? How does it go up? Where does it happen? And so you can show a bunch of different products on the stage in a small one and talk about the sequencing of doing those that makes it easier to install them. So it's not so much rocket science. Like, hey, throw this membrane up before you build all your interior walls. Like, yeah, nice flat ceiling. Everything goes up super fast. Like, you can show that in a way on a small scale that they can apply to their projects, which I love in here. There's so many things in, I mean, this feels like a big space, but like in a tiny space.
That's a good point. Connor, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say that shows like this can be overwhelming. There's a lot to take in. These are football fields full of information. I think then that's probably an understatement. The nice thing about these shows is you have really smart folks here who are really helping to share what they know. But the manufacturers who are here, it's the who's who of that company. There's the marketing rep, there's a technical lead, there's a product specialist. And in many cases, like Rockwell, Anderson, Huber, and Siga, they have regional reps. So if you have questions past today, getting the name of that rep for Ontario or for Maine, so you can call with your selfish question about your project, is really important. And they can help you.
Yeah.
They're all here to offer value and help demystify, okay, what's the first thing I could use in the Siga product family? What's the first thing I could use if I want to transition to a non-foam-based exterior installation, and have conversations? So the people here are really great to follow up with.
I come here and I go business card hunting. What I do is I go and try and find products that I'm interested in and get the people in the booth to tell me who it is that I need to talk to answer my question. And then I don't ask the question while I'm here because it's kind of overwhelming at times. And I'm like, can I just get your card?
Yeah.
Follow up with you.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, they're like, absolutely. Cool. Send us an email. Let me know. And they're here to help. And a lot of times they're also going to be asking you questions or listening about your jobs so that they can get that input to make their products better. Because I've gotten involved with working with a bunch of manufacturers on product development and research. And like, we all think that like they're pulling in crowds of us and asking us all these questions and researching. A lot of times they're just coming up with a solution and then seeing if it works. So when they get to have our input, it's really valuable for them. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, and to different hat on, I mean, we build and we also teach at a trade school. Is for trade school instructors, really leverage the fact that the marketing directors are typically here. They often have the leverage to see the value in investing in your program because of what it does for long-term return. Is those people are here to explain what your program does, who you educate, who you connect with, your regions. And that's often hard to do when you months later, trying to email the main email address to find that person, but they're here right now. So really good connections for those that are in trade skills who need support.
I got a tough one here. So this struck me when I was watching your demonstrations earlier. So it's obvious the folks who are here have an interest in building better. I think it's fair to say that many of the folks at the Builder Show generally are interested in building better. But I am certain there are going to be folks you meet on the job site or in the trade world who say, why are you spending all this time fussing with this WRB? No one cares. It doesn't matter. How do we get those folks to want to do a better job, to invest their time in making better buildings?
That is a tough one. Thanks.
We've had success with the why. Start with the why. Everybody can relate to living in a home. Everyone can relate to getting a call from their mom. Oh, the gutter's overflowing. The basement's full of water. All that stuff goes away when I start talking to my framer, 8, 9 years ago about, hey, we're going to switch from this system over to the zip system. And it's really easy. And, oh, no, that's going to cost you a lot more money. Blah, blah. We're like, I'm not asking you to try and figure out the economics of my company. I'm asking you to listen to why I want you to try this with me. I want your help. And in fact, I said, we need your help to execute this detail because you are going to be the ones that determine whether this is a leaky, uncomfortable house that has water problems because of the vapor that rides on the air. And they're like, wait, what? You start explaining it to them, give them the why. All of our trade partners are very smart professionals. Now, they may not be Mensa level, let's discuss the socioeconomic platform of Ukraine. That's not what I'm talking about. They are committed to a work. They are able to do that work, and we need to treat them with respect. They're smart enough to know that if I say, if you tape this joint, there won't be any water in here. We won't have any rot.
Eh,
And if you tape it well and roll it,
Yeah.
then we won't have any air leakage either. And now that they understand the why, they buy in and they want to be part of the success of that house.
And inversely, if they don't buy in and you're getting continual pushback, then to me, that's a sign that these are not people that I want to work with.
Can you just fire subs who just are not willing to come on board? Is that
No, it's not that easy. Like, this is a difficult thing. You have to invest time with these subs to try and bring them up to speed. And if they continually can't do it, then you have to go out and start looking for other trade partners to work with. Because for us as business owners, these levels of performance are important to us. This is what sets us apart as a business, right? From our competitors in our local environment. So we have to lose money on trade partners that don't perform and pay to go back in and fix these things to get to
Yeah.
where we need to be, so that we can move on and find somebody that will work with us.
Yeah.
what you want to say,
I
Connor?
look at it a bit like some sales. So I used to work in women's apparel, and the thing we learned in how to sell
I
women's
bet you
apparel.
look beautiful.
You know what? I had a good time. The thing you learn about things in sales is you're solving problems, right? Someone comes in for a new pair of pants, bra, whatever it is, you're trying to solve a need they have, and they exercise, they live, they work, whatever. It's the same thing in building. So we would learn the product tags, all 16 features, but we don't start by just verbally diarrheaing all the features. We ask them, what brought you in here today? What problem are you trying to solve? And we pick the top 3 that relate to that problem. That's how we get solutions. In architecture, there's an architect in New York called Michael Ingui, builds a lot of passive projects and brownstones. He doesn't lead with, let me tell you about passive and why you should be doing it. He asks his clients the questions, tell me about the things you want to see in your project. This is downtown Manhattan, so noise and bugs and rats. He leaves like probative questions. How do you feel about noise? Oh, we want a really quiet building. Maybe we should consider building, super insulated because they can be quieter, and we can consider triple pane windows. We might want to think about this building standard. Or dust. We want a bug-free. We don't want cockroaches. Well, the way to do that is an airtight building has less pass for bugs. Maybe we should consider building an airtight standard. So you're leading with the problem, right? We do some product research as well. We call it pain points in tech. It's the same thing here with sales, is you're trying to sell them on your idea, but don't lead with your sales pitch, ask them what they want to solve.
I think the high performance world, and people have heard me say this, I prattle this on and on because I feel passionately about it. I think the high performance world has done ourselves a disservice by talking about energy, leading with energy, because really what we need to be leading with is durability, comfort, and health. Right? Everybody wants those things. Those are emotional things that you can relate to. You want your mother-in-law when she's over visiting the house to be comfortable. You want your kids to be growing up in a healthy environment. You want a building that's durable, that's not going to cost you $50,000 in repairs unknown, right? Oh, but wait, game, set, and match. If we do these things, you also get energy efficiency along with it. At this point, it's a sale,
Yeah.
right?
But that's an instant connection to the folks that run your subtrade crew. Your subcontractors, they live somewhere. They have those same pain points. So if you can teach them that aspect, what the benefit will be to that house, and also talk about, if we get this right, we're going to be beating them back with a whatever. There's an expression.
Stick.
Thank you.
Stick.
Beat them back with a stick. I wasn't sure what the right weapon is to a.
Do they
a
not have
soccer client.
2x4?
There you go. That's what I was looking for. Let's get a construction tie-in. We're going to be beating them back with a 2x4 because everybody wants to live this way.
Yeah.
I want to build a house for my framer that is this kind of house.
Yeah.
I want my insulator to live in a house that's safe for his kids. They want that too. That's how you get the buy-in. That's how you get them on board.
Do you find that once you get folks to a certain point, they take their own interest in it, or is it vary by the individual?
It's totally dependent on the individual.
Yeah.
Some people come into it because they care about energy efficiency. Some people want the comfort. Some people want sustainability and lowered impact. Like, it's a broad mix all across the board of why people come in.
Do you guys have thoughts on that? What works?
Yeah, we definitely have different clients across the board. I have people who want to talk about every single thing that we've done in the energy model and how we're doing it. I had one client, she actually wanted to cut a hole and leave plexiglass so she could show people the inside of her double stud wall. Like,
This window.
so cool. She thought it was the best thing. She tells everybody about it that comes to her house. And then we have other clients who are, exactly what Michael
Normal.
which normal. Exactly what Michael Ingui would say. Be like, you don't live here all the time and you don't want pests in your house. So we're
Yeah.
going to try to get our blower door number down below those passive house levels. Like, it really is dependent on the person,
Yep.
but they all do want to feel like their house is beautiful, it's special, and it is something that they love. And that means different things to different people. But I think you're right when you're talking about durability too, and like risk assessment. Like, what's the biggest issue in the construction industry is things fail, right? So
Yeah.
let's talk about risk. Let's pay attention to our building materials so we can.
So you're suggesting that you can convince people who may not see the value in the extra effort that this kind of work takes by saying to them, there's a strong chance this building is going to perform better and not leak and cost you money in litigation or whatever, warranty claims?
Guess what? If it's airtight, it's also watertight.
I think it depends on your outlook as well. I mean, if they're like a long-time buyer, a lot of your clients might be long-term homeowners. They have a different way of viewing that property as a long-term investment to them. They're going to live in and reap the benefits of a durable building. It can be a harder sell if that client is there for 5 to 7 years, which is a Canadian average of homeownership, to see the durability because it's not marketable.
They don't care. I mean, why should they? They're like, I'm selling this place in 7 years. How do you convince that person that it
Well,
matters?
it's tough. I'll tell you something personal. We're living in a personal house right now. I invest a lot of time into my envelope. I have less money for furniture. My wife's not so happy with me because the things you see and touch are temporary, right? And they can come later. But it is hard with a shorter outlook is how do you sell that value by understanding the pain points? Can you educate them enough that they can sell that to the next home buyer about being durable or airtight or dust-free, right? Find new names for these products that are accessible.
I had another one. This might be hard. So you all get questions from the audience, right? When you're presenting, best question, good questions, things that made you say, I don't know. I kind of put you on the spot there, but if you think of something, I thought it would be interesting.
I had a question because we have a couple of designy folks here, some design professionals, and some people who spend a lot of time in design. It was on a different presentation I did. It was Ben and I were actually doing exterior insulation, and we were talking with someone who does brick exteriors for their foundation.
Like
finish.
veneer?
Correct. Oh, well, true brick though.
Uh-huh.
But they were talking about like, well, how do you rectify? I've got continuous insulation, but I don't want to step back, and I've got my brick down here, and I've got my cladding up here, and I was like, well, I guess I've never looked at it that way. We do it the other way. We want I'm in Kansas City, climate zone 4, middle of the map. Big up to the mighty Midwest. We like that podium look. We love that shadow line of projecting our wall claddings out and just leaving an exposed concrete foundation. There's a shadow line there. There's an obvious drip pattern that makes it a very durable assembly. And there's just a general acceptance of that concrete condition. But apparently exposed concrete foundations, just awful for a lot of our designy friends. And in Texas, they apparently really like a brick ledge and a brick lower wall condition, but they wanted to integrate that
With
continuous-
insulation.
Yes. So they said, well, my brick's 4 inches thick and I've got this insulation and this gap.
Just put the insulation on both layers, and then they bump out the same distance together.
Well, that's
They
what
put
I
it
was
over
like,
the brick.
we
On
could.
the outside, the brick will stay really clean for a long time.
But I wanted to talk to our design professionals because to me, I love that. And I also know that there's a lot of people who love a stone cap over that or a precast concrete cap. So you could still have the foundation look more proud, which is more traditional, obviously, the old Greek orders and the columns, all that stuff. I'm getting way out over my skis here. I'm just a guy who swings a hammer and cuts the wire. So would you please comment on the alignment of these exterior planes as we start to involve exterior continuous insulation and how we want to make things look their best, because a beautiful home will be taken care of by its occupants, and that's part of durability.
I think that there were several things. First, I'd agree with Ben. If you have continuous insulation, then everything just moves out the same amount of distance.
But the cladding's thinner than the brick.
Yes, but oftentimes in our market, we would want that. Well, I mean, maybe not. Maybe we wouldn't, because then you have to. The devil's in the details, right? When you have this thing that sticks out farther, and you
Gotta
live in a
flash it.
client where you get rain, so you know have to flash it and make sure everything goes where you want it to go. Um, there are a lot of different materials that can be veneer surfaces as well, so it'll look like brick, but maybe it's not a full brick wide. So
For us, we build in a pretty dense urban center. Average lots downtown are 16 feet wide, maybe 18 feet, like 20 feet wide for us. We don't have this challenge of can I give 4 inches to an overhang? That's like 8% of the lot width. So for us, we start from the meta of what's the zoning study say, we go backwards, and because of maximizing floor area, we turn that into this is why we probably can't do a brick veneer. Do you agree? Yeah, we don't want to give up this. So we roll it out completely in most cases and opt for cladding services that are proud of the foundation for drainage. It often isn't presented as an option to the client. It's just best principles what we do.
Stucco, right? Thinner than brick.
True.
Over the
for sure.
insulation.
It's a good solution. I'm curious, are you seeing pushback against exterior insulation because of those?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's often
That's a shame.
often to build the thinnest wall possible. Our building code still allows for non-continuous insulation, so we can build a 5.5 inch wall, and that's fine. So it is a push, honestly, to hit the recommended exterior insulation values that we talk about as recommended because of really lot width in zoning. It can be a challenge, and because of our proximity, we have a lot of laneway suites built to a 0.0 meter setback or 0-inch setback. That means that buildings can touch. So then we have impact of fire. And so I'm trying to translate, right?
I love that you converted 0 meters to 0 inches for us. I know I'm a dumb American, but 0 is 0 in every mathematical language. I appreciate
He was so polite and Canadian.
That's Canadian of you. Yeah. Let me help Travis out. The 0. No, I said meters. 0 inches.
I talked to 19.
I'm glad he did that. Stop it. I think that was helpful.
I love you,
lost
brother.
until that.
That's awesome, Connor.
I'm here for you.
It's amazing to me that your lots are so narrow that 4 inches collectively could be a deal breaker for someone who's trying to maximize their house.
No, and honestly, aside from insulation, it provides its challenges in just like how do you erect a building. There's a laneway builder who builds to a 0-inch setback, which means you think about your assembly is you're framing on the flat, you are sheeting, you're putting
Siding.
water resistant barrier, strapping, and then they're actually to tip it up or not have it. I mean, this is down to the 16th. Yeah.
That's a millimeter.
16
30
Canadian or
seconds.
English.
We build imperial. I get it. You flip. I'd say a mil, but it's a 16th. You can't have that wall slide. So what they're doing right now, this is the challenge of like tight centers, is they're actually routing out a big long 40-foot piano hinge. So when the wall tips up, it's on a hinge, so it lines up perfectly. So when we're dealing with that kind of setback, part of it is just dealing with if you, in that conceptual design stage, draw the exterior walls as thick as you want them, so you're only space planning from 8, 12 inches, never show the wall could be thinner. It's when you start from a minimum and say, well, you have to give up the wider powder to get exterior insulation. That becomes a give and take. So you can remove some cards from the deck.
we don't even have 0 setbacks, and we still start with our Croft straw bale panels that are at least like 20 inches thick. And then we say, this is how much space you can have on the inside. And then if it gets a little thinner,
Yeah.
like that's not even a simple. We've got multiple acre lot, but I'm still going to show you this much insulation. Never start with less.
So you brought up straw bale. That's something, obviously we're here at the Construction Performance Zone. Ben and Joe and I are trying to provide a nice slice of what you should probably be seeing on your job sites.
And
Familiar building
mainstream,
materials.
mainstream, I would suggest, right? That's the whole idea. Is this is stuff you're going to run to every
You
day?
don't want to go so erudite that nobody's ever going to be able to touch this stuff.
Our insulation sponsor is not Aerogel. We've got rock wool. We've
I
got.
would love that though. because
I know
don't
you
wanna
would, and so
squirrel
would
away
Connor.
to
He'd be
home.
taking some home. He can
Yeah.
build some really thin walls.
You insulate with steam.
That's very Canadian of you.
It is.
The steam off the
People
Molson.
scented.
Yeah.
It's a perfect
Exactly.
bouquet. Anyway, the reason that I mention that is that you just mentioned straw bale. There's a strong push for sustainability amongst all the people on this stage and many of the people in our audience. I know that's not everybody's top priority because durability probably trumps that for the majority of us. None of us.
First of all, I would like to make enough money to keep my company running. That's priority number one. Not a lot, but just enough.
That's fair. Where I was going with this is there are so many sustainable solutions now that are becoming pretty mainstream. And you mentioned straw bale. I would, just for curiosity's sake, are there any builders, tradespeople in the audience who are familiar with straw bale construction? Look at this.
Have you built one? Anyone? Yeah?
Look at all the smarty pants that come to the
Elizabeth, of course.
Hippies.
Yeah.
These are all my people.
Well-
Right here.
Are you saying that I don't roll with smart folks? Joe's going to be pissed.
No, but in fairness, I think also talking about regional specifics is really important. So we're here out in Las Vegas and we want to talk about every region. What is available pretty much everywhere? For me, I said straw bales. They literally make them almost in my backyard. So for me, that's a little bit easier of a sell.
Agreed.
One of the things that's really important to me is to go out and show kind of mainstream approaches and a number of them because I grew up working in New England, and when I started to get to travel in this profession, I'm like, oh yeah, you just insulate it with cellulose, and they're like, with the what?
We can't get that.
And like, it was a real shock to me that like we have these regional things that are and are not available. So we're always trying to bring it back to core concepts.
Yeah.
And get to like that base understanding of what we're trying to achieve, because then you can take and apply that anywhere.
I mean, 100%. I mean, if even for us, cellulose, like Clem Zone 5 and 6 up where you are, is ubiquitous. Finding installers, we find a challenge. As soon as we have a product we want to try, it's finding a crew's experience installing that product can be a challenge.
Yeah.
Cellulose was something we used in the 40s and 50s. We don't have a lot of it because of the takeover of a lot of other products.
Yeah. And I was going to say the same thing too is like availability of a product. So I'm going to pick on Texas for a second. They make cellulose, but none of them use it there.
Well, the classic example that I always get the wide eyes over is all you Northeasterners talk about, I just use a scrap piece of clapboard to get my pitched windowsill. I'm like,
These guys were talking
I had
about
to
that.
fly here with it because you can't buy it.
that's right. It was like a piece of cedar clapboard. That's like gold. What are you going to just put down some gold leaf for
Well,
your
it's also like gold out there too.
It's
Like,
on
well,
every
one stick and almost
job.
had a
Come
heart
on,
attack.
you Yankees.
So you don't need to use that specifically. You need shims if you don't have the cedar clapboard. And like Ben said, everyone would save those pieces because you knew you were going to use them either to patch some junky old building or to
And we have
window in, right?
because we're cheap Yankees and we
Yeah.
squirrel away the stuff would peel off of the side of the.
And your dad probably has a stack of it in the roof of his
Absolutely. I have
garage.
My
right?
grandfather
tracks.
squirted away
That tracks.
clapboard
Got it
siding.
out of the barn. We've been hanging out into that for 40 years. It's fine.
Yeah, just on your next laneway project, just roll back to the barn and grab some extra clapboard, Connor. Best of luck to you.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
In the interest of asking questions y'all have no expertise in, okay, in fairness, right?
That's perfect. It's BS and beer. Let's do it.
New architectural trends. Okay, let's start with either things you want to see or are seeing with some frequency or maybe once recently. And this could be a trend or you're hoping
Big
becomes
glass,
a trend.
big glass, big glass.
Big glass, patio doors.
Patio doors, floor to ceiling windows, glass.
Is this a good thing? What do you think about this?
It depends. Like to Travis's point before. Oh, thank you for that. We have a tradition on BS and beer. If anybody says it depends, you have to drink. So
Wait.
if you're ever on as a guest, you can really screw with us because you can say it depends, and you'll just watch all of us get drunker and drunker in our seats.
That's a tip I needed to know. Awesome. Okay.
Show.
But it really does depend. The thing is we need to understand the impact of those big pieces of glass as we go into it. Because like Travis said, we want buildings to be beautiful because if they're beautiful, then they're cared for. Now, that's the ultimate goal, is that we have people having happy, comfortable, successful lives in these homes. But we just need to understand that having that big glass has a big energy impact. And we need to be mindful of that.
I think something we're seeing and like to see more of is really talking about accessibility features. You talk about
So
accessible-
I'm going to stop you there, Con. That's real interesting. So is that code mandated? Is that just
Driven.
No, and this is my personal take on it. So if you build a public building, commercial building, you have to hit minimum accessibility guidelines. So bathrooms, doors, entries. When you build single family, it's a private residence, it's your choice. How I look at that and I wrote a study on this was if that building is sold every 5 to 7 years, and if 100 years is lived in by 20 different families, is that not a public building? And should it not be on us to really make sure there's some basic affordance built into these structures? And I think there's now some movement in making these things a bit sexier sounding. So we say curbless shower, then like roll-in shower. It's language, right? So if we start to work on when you're framing second floor platforms, if you can choose to just frame in that floor header, no matter if there's a curbless shower or not, it's just best practice. We're now framing in for residential elevators in our projects. What that means in terms of initial construction is the main floor area of the shaft is a walk-in pantry, right? Selling sexy term. Upstairs is a linen closet.
Connor, do you frame the floor to accommodate an opening later? How's that work?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So we frame the stair header or whatever big enough, and then we back frame the floor. So later in 5, 10, 20 years, it's as simple as hauling out that floor and not restructuring the entire house. That means it's not physically possible. The cost is $2,000 up front. So
You can also do other things like I built a house for my mom, which is hopefully going to be her forever home. And we did things like the kitchen cabinets and the bathroom vanity cabinets. We set them up so it's a separate cabinet module that we can unscrew and slide out so that if she ever ends up in a wheelchair, it's already prepped for her. You know, it's those aging in place concepts that we're seeing from a lot of older clients.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's cool.
The nice word is universal design. A lot of people are using that. And I would say it takes another step further too. You want to think about it with your materials because there's a lot of tripping hazards as you age, right? So if the floor is sort of the same color and there's a bit of a step, something, so we pay a lot of attention to the interior materials.
I can't tell you how many times I've tripped on carpeting in the freaking hall out here, right? Just walking. Yeah.
You
I probably need some help.
getting older, Patrick.
Ambulation, right? But yeah, that's a good point.
I was still hung up on the big doors and Ben's point about the big glass. I was fortunate I was able to visit Anderson's plant in Arizona and see these. Yeah,
Dr. Anderson, yes.
Sean Anderson.
Anderson is heard from.
The zone, Ellie. So I was really fortunate. I got to go down to Arizona and see these things, and I'm kind of with Ben. Like, hey, I built a really good wall system. I've heard Emily say this a number of times. We try to put as few windows as the clients need to have the aesthetic that they desire, and then meet the performance goals. But these big badass doors are not the energy suck that they used to be. And they have sunken sills. There's these really cool sill systems that have these badass screws that allow you to adjust up and down to make that a flush entry. It's not a barrier at all. So if you live in a mild climate, especially where you're going to have that door open a ton and it'll pocket back into the sides, it's dead flush. That kind of stuff wasn't available. What's that?
I think they're just talking loudly.
Oh, sorry. I thought we were engaging in a conversation. It threw me way off.
You're being ignored.
That sounds right. I feel like I'm home. At any rate, I guess what I'm encouraged by is that I feel like the performance of these products has finally come up to match the goals that we've been seeking.
Yeah.
So finally, my friend, the architect, instead of my enemy, the architect, as a builder, I don't know how many times I've encountered other people like myself who love to pull out a plan and say how dumb this is and how dumb this is and how dumb this is and how dumb this is.
It's a favorite pastime among builders.
Right. Everybody wants to pick at each other's work. And I'm sure the architects come out and they look at the job and they go, I put a really specific detail in here so we wouldn't have this dumb problem. And they didn't even look at the plan. These builders are so dumb. I feel like we've got this really nice, we got a good vibe going. We're all hanging out. We're cool. Everybody's putting everything together. We got this awesome building material. We've got this really good design. We got these builders who care. Everything's working out.
This is more
Sorry, Trav, that was
should be, I gotta say.
Okay, that worked out great. Thanks for that.
So,
Robbie's got a question. You know Robbie Schwartz? He's got a question for you.
hi, Robbie.
Regardless of the size of the window to wall ratio still is going to totally impact.
Yeah.
So Robbie's saying that it doesn't matter the size of the window. It matters more the ratio of window to wall area, right?
And I was going to say the same thing. So thank you, Robbie. Yes, the windows are getting better. Yes, those gorgeous doors are fantastic, and we want to put them in our project. And now we've got places like the construction performance zone and whatever, where we're talking about, yeah, we can use those in conjunction with the other things, right? We might have one wall that's the north wall that doesn't have, for our climate zone, doesn't have anything on it, right? So it's like, I put all my windows on the south. That's great for my climate zone. I can use a big piece of glass there. I can pay attention to those details. And now it makes us feel better about both the product is getting better, so you're not sitting next to it freezing, but also we're getting better at looking at the whole building as a whole instead of just saying this one thing is the worst part.
Yeah, I guess my pushback on that is my clients are going to make me put it in anyway, Robbie. They want that cool stuff. And so I'm really excited that the performance has started to come up to a point where I don't have to feel like a crummy builder because I put a giant hole in the house that's going to suck energy and not be able to be accessible. Now I have a product that performs well enough that I can go, yeah, this isn't going to be as good as my wall, but it's also a lot better than what I grew up putting in. So that was my point. But you're right. I can't disagree.
Well, wall is always going to be better than a window, no matter how you slice it, right?
Yep. And an under slab insulation with no perforations is going to perform better than a wall with a bunch of windows and doors in it. And a continuous R60 blanket across your ceiling is going to be better than a wall. But what we can look at is a realistic view of how we build and go, yeah, I'm willing to accept that bad spot because now, I shouldn't call it a bad spot. Now I'm willing to accept that slight performance reduction across this wonderful aesthetic wonder.
Politics.
Yeah. It's not politics. Do you have clients? Do you not have to serve a humanity? Are you kidding me? Dude, I can't even win in my house. Look, I'm a mechanical contractor. That's one of the things that I do. I do electrical, I do mechanical, I do trim. I love getting to do all these things. It's a great privilege to wear my bags. It's my favorite part of my job. As a mechanical contractor, do you know how many tears I shed when my wife made me ignore my manual T and put in wood floor registers and completely obliterate the flow on all my ducts because I have a hardwood floor system?
I'm still trying to get my wife to understand that turning it up doesn't make the heat come out faster.
My wife is way smarter than I am. And I was like, look, Tara, I want you to understand, if I do the wood register, I'm literally cutting off half of the flow. It's brutal. Please don't make me do this. She's like, don't care. It's pretty. Get it done. I love her, so I was happy to do it.
Can you put them away at night and just put them out in the morning?
Put the what?
Like,
Are you trying to find more work for me, Connor? You're killing me, brother.
like off of the shelf of HVAC. Just every night you put them away.
Robin's running around.
You finally found, Connor, you have unlocked a new service.
No, you slowly change them. Every 2 weeks.
Make them a little bigger. Make them a little bigger.
8% wider.
Route the individual squares a little wider.
Nail file sanding down the rim.
It's a Shawshank Redemption. I'm down there just a little bit at a time.
It's the poster.
Add more airflow, baby. More airflow. More
While getting
CFM.
sawdust blown in his face.
This is the most fun I've had all day. You guys are the best.
Oh, man.
So, inside design trends, anyone want to talk about, or kitchen stuff that they've seen?
Giant tiles.
Giant tiles, like 2-3 feet, right?
Oh, come on, like 4x8s, 4x10s.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's bananas.
Yeah.
How does that work?
They are bananas.
Very expensive and slow, and you got to like get your structural engineers involved before you even start building the project to make sure that the deflection criteria on your floor systems is
I think what it does do, it starts to take interior finishes and pull them right back to structural planning. So it's been talked about, like deflection, the bending of that floor. If you take a smaller tile and you're staggering a brick pattern, it can take a lot of movement over that floor. When you scale to a 4x4, 4x8 sheets, which we're now seeing, you need a absolutely dead flat floor. That's now pushing discussions into open truss floor systems, which help mechanical because of interior design decisions. So those are now really coming up.
How much deflection are you allowed with one of those giant format tiles?
You're potentially moving, like I've seen specs for L720 span requirements.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it depends on the pattern. So if they're not bricking and they're lining them up,
Yeah.
You got no tolerance for.
So can I ask a quick dumb question? Why are finishes and details always harder? Why don't people why aren't trends making things easier ever? Why is it always more complicating? Anyone know?
Because we get to build bigger, crazier things, and then we figure out how to do it. Because
I
we
guess
keep
that's
making
it.
bigger, crazier machines to build bigger.
It's like it's never, a new trend that makes it easiar. It's
There are some.
Sometimes.
yeah, like what?
LVT has taken over a lot
What?
of flooring markets. LVT,
Yeah.
luxury,
Like
vinyl
like
tile.
that Pella Steady Set thing, that window that you can install from the inside. Like I have
That's easy.
yeah, but I have mixed feelings on that. Like totally, admittedly, I have very mixed feelings on that. But we're seeing an intention put in place there. The intention is we're looking at how difficult these things are to install, and we're trying to make it better.
I would also say too that I think some of the design trends that are coming around, we have our clients often tell us we're not fussy. We don't want anything fussy. And I think we missed the part where we used to do really detailed installation and then that craftsmanship got hard, where then people started to try to move to things that were easier. And now we've just moved to zero tolerance because we don't have any way to hide anything anymore. And so I think
that's right.
they think they're picking something that's going to be easier and simpler, not understanding that
Like
it actually
zero
is,
trim.
Yeah.
We're just gonna do reglets everywhere. It'll be easier than having.
I've heard designers say that this should be easier, that there's no, but
Yeah.
anyone who's
Just
done that work
designers
will
not
tell you
sure.
it's just the opposite.
Oh my
Because it,
god.
Yeah.
it does appear like less.
Yeah.
Right. So if you ask a client how do they feel about quarter round or shoe mold and bulkheads, if they look like they shiver, then you're looking at a really stripped down system.
Yeah.
And when let's look at just simply taking off the shoe. If you just go to no shoe mold, you need to scribe the base or have a dead flat floor. Once you take that back one more layer and have no base or a recessed base and a rebated, we're now seeing contractors in Toronto CNC all their drywall, which allows them to have you can take your drywall returning into a window, so no return.
Yep.
Is they want a perfect 90-degree corner, so no swelling, nothing. What that means is now they're pre-ordering their jam returns in drywall ahead of time. They're being CNC'd off site where they V out the backs, they can fold perfect 90s, and they've done the whole house because of how simple it looks. So
I'm not sure if that's cool or wacky, but it's a solution. It's a solution.
it's beautiful.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's beautiful, but it looks simpler. This is the thing. The less you have, the more it takes to make that thing happen.
Oh yeah.
That's the beauty of like classical trim work is you can hide a multitude of sins, and there's so many lines going on that your eye doesn't pick up on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if your jacket had no zipper, it looks simpler, but getting into it would be harder.
That is profound.
That might be the
I'm not
best
sure how it applies to my life.
Yeah, with every client that ever asked me for a no
Felt
base. That's what I'm going to say.
What?
Like, I'm getting rid of your zipper, and then we'll talk.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck getting out of that
I
jacket.
might eliminate the neck opening too if you don't play your cards right.
Imagine though you could do stretchy trim like Velcro based trim with some Lycra.
Wow.
I
That's
think
like
we
the
just
stretch
go ahead
ceilings. Have
and,
you ever seen
yeah.
ceilings? Yeah, like stretch
Those were
ceilings.
so dope.
Open the floor to questions.
Easy, cool.
Is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah, I was going to say if we're going to go ahead and start doing wall to floor transition, I want everything to look like,
A cove.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Let's
like
just go ahead
terrazzo.
and plaster right into the floor. We'll do a gypcrete up the wall. We'll make a nice, beautiful curve.
Like a
There'll
hospital.
be no trims, and you won't be able to tell where the wall is.
Did you hose everything down when
Your
you're?
nose.
We had to do a shower like that one time where it was heat
gorgeous,
formed
right?
Mica right from the shower pan right up to the walls on all the corners. Whoa.
Yeah.
Never again. Never again.
How about y'all? Have any questions? Anybody want to talk about anything specific? You want to ask Connor about more great analogies to make your lives easier? Oh, go ahead.
What's up?
For the large format quartz slabs like on a shower wall, are we looking at structural engineering for that?
Large format slabs on a shower wall, are we looking at structural engineering for that? Not typically, because they're not generally going to be under a load. Like a floor system's under a dynamic load, so that's why we have to worry about the diaphragm performance of it. Whereas there could be some loading that's happening against the wall
We
of your
had some
shower.
conversation recently about the challenge it is to find people who have the right set of skills to install those things because it's a lot of kind of carpentry work that tile setters generally not.
It's also a huge tool investment. Like the tooling just to cut those tiles
Yeah.
is thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
I think folks who have thought that's going to be an easier or less expensive way to have a shower installed have found that to not be the case. So
No, and I think just in terms of sequencing, like your contractor knows when drywall sheets come in, they might leave a window out or measure window ROs to slide them through. It's thinking through those large scale finishes.
Yeah.
We might move up a jacuzzi tub well ahead of drywall to get it up there. Those tiles might have to go up ahead of drywall so they're actually in the space if they're not templated off-site.
Good point.
Huge pain. Subway tile
It's
everything.
very frustrating when
Subway
stuff
tile it is.
shows up and like,
Mosaics.
oh, you know what? This doesn't fit upstairs.
Sorry, we're gonna have to cut the wall open and hire a crane.
It was about 4 years ago that we redid a primary suite on a second floor in a very, very old home, 140-year-old home. And the clients were dead set on having a washer and dryer in their new bathroom. And they were also dead set on not paying me $60,000 to redo their stairs to make it wide enough to get the appliances from the first floor to the second floor. So as we finished out our trim out, we removed the upstairs windows, set scaffolding, and raised up their washer and dryer.
I'm guessing they at least bought new appliances, or I hope they did.
They did,
Yeah.
and I posted a video about it. I was like, everybody's going to tell me this is idiotic, but do you know what it cost us to set that up? A few $100s.
Yeah.
Like it was literally our baker
I
scaffold.
don't know how else you would do it either. Right?
That's right. We
I
had
was really hoping that, like, I was picturing in my head that you like disassembled the washer and dryer into little pieces and carried them up one by one, and then tried to figure out how to put it back
I
together.
hired Connor's Elf on the shelf, and they did it a little bit at a time every night. You know, it was very simple.
You're just trying to set up a continuous business forever, though, because no appliance person who's going to deliver that
Right.
appliances are what, like 4 years.
It's gonna be on the
lifespan?
porch.
They're going to call you every 4 years to put in a new washer and dryer.
My guess is the client will move. They'll be like, "Oh, the washer broke. We got to get a new house."
Time to move.
Which is, I'm a
All right, we're
builder, so
great
that's
when
what I'm
we
selling.
want
I'm selling houses. I'm looking out for me.
You could do a keyhole shaped door though, where the top is 32 and it swells out like wide hips, 36 to the bottom. You know, just to fit those low washers through it.
It's like those body type things that you see on social media. It's like, are you a pair? Like these doorways are a pair.
Pair doors.
Perfect. The problem is the stairway was not.
Yeah,
it was
that's
designed around a 28-inch module.
That's why they make lubricant.
I've seen photos of. What'd you say?
Connor said that's why they make lubricant.
I mean,
And he said it with a straight
to be
face.
fair, electricians use it with conduit, right? They
Right.
call it conduit lubricant, I assume. Is that right?
Yes,
That's
Moose
correct.
juice.
This is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a bunch of great names for that in the field. We won't be using them here today. Okay, carry on.
I don't know where to go
Where
now.
my electrician's at. Yeah.
Do you have any questions? More questions? That's the. Yeah.
Does anyone have any complaints about time they've spent with Carl Seville? I'd like to close with that. There we go. Elizabeth, yes.
Surprised.
Oh, man.
This has been fun. Is this?
This is our final BS and Beer show at the Construction Performance Zone. So
For this year.
for this year, you want to
Yeah,
talk about this?
Talk about that.
Okay, so if you're familiar with the BS and Beer show, you're probably also very likely familiar with the Building Science Symposium, which was sort of an outpouring of fandom over the Fine Homebuilding Summit that was in 2019. My business partner, Joe Cook, and myself got to go see Ben Bogey, and basically the Mount Rushmore of building science, who's who, present in Massachusetts.
Yep.
And it was a seminal event in my career because at that point I realized that there was so much great building science and really construction knowledge being shared so freely among my colleagues. What was that, Carl? Oh, we're adding to that list of complaints about Carl Seville that we'll close the show with. That's great. Thanks. That's another one, Carl. Typical. So anyway, as an outpouring of fandom, Joe and I started the Midwest Building Science Symposium. We had Steve Basic and Jake Bruton come to a one-day seminar in Kansas City, and it immediately sold out. It was a great experience. Those guys shared generously of their knowledge, and then we also enjoyed beer and barbecue, which is usually a path to success and happiness. So we did it again the next year, and then subsequently we've offered this. We've expanded it. We brought in Cheryl Lewis to help us grow it, and it's been in 5 to 6 cities across the U.S. for the last few years.
What cities are we in this year?
Say it again, please.
What cities?
What cities?
Are we in this year?
I was getting to that. We just launched a new website, buildingsciencesymposium.com, which does have on it a countdown timer for each of the cities following Las Vegas, which we did on Monday, a little BS and Beer Symposium Light, where we featured Ben Bogey and Jake and Steve and Also, our good friend Ross Trethewey, who you can see here tomorrow. Oh, no, he was here today.
Yes.
I'm sorry. But to answer your question, I got to tell the whole story. I'm not exactly brief. Come on, Jake. I'm killing 5 minutes. Otherwise, we're going to just talk about how bad Carl is. The cities for this year's Building Science Symposium series are on that website, buildingsciencesymposium.com. They include Seattle, coming up April 6th and 7th, which is why Jake Carter is asking about it. He's your local BS and Beer organizer. They're Puget Sound, so that's one. Then, and Fine Homebuilding is obviously our media partner for those events. So you can come and see, if not Patrick, you could maybe see Grant, the new editor. You could see maybe Randy Williams, the new editor of Green Building Advisor will be there. Or you could see any number of those other folks. Seattle, April 6th and 7th. We'll be in Sacramento, May 7th and 8th, I think.
Yep.
And then we take a little summer break. We return to Kansas City, the mothership, which we haven't done in years, which will be very exciting for me because that's my local BS and Beer. We were in Toronto last year where we had Connor, but this year we're not going to get to go to Canada. I'm sorry. We'll come back next year, I hope. Instead, in the fall, after Kansas City in September, we'll be in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which isn't that where you're from?
No.
Pittsburgh.
Boy, that landed well. Strong finish, Travis.
So where are they at again? I lost
Cincinnati.
track. Okay.
Cincinnati.
So we have, what are they?
You want the fast version that doesn't include all the flowery language?
just like-
Here's the list: Seattle, Sacramento, Kansas City, Philadelphia, and Cincinnati.
Yes.
Woo! Thank you.
But hold on.
That wasn't exciting at all, though.
I would like everybody to know we've been doing this and we're getting sponsored by a lot of manufacturers that are helping us do this. And where does the money go that we raise from doing these events?
Well, so far we've raised about $160,000 for skilled trades. It's all been donated to Keep Craft Alive, which is Fine Homebuilding's brainchild, and that generally goes to Skills USA.
Yep.
And that's a great way to support skilled trades. We are losing 5 tradespersons and replacing them with 1. It's not a sustainable model. We've got to support skilled trades education. The NAHB does a fantastic job of that. Skills USA does a great job of that. Keep Craft Alive does a great job of that. All of you can do a
Yeah,
great
you
job
all
of
have
that.
to be doing that too, you know?
And if nothing else, come to the symposium, and for a very, very modest fee, $120 to $170,
It's
you
incredible.
get 2 days of building science education,
Food,
food,
beer,
and beer.
both days.
Yeah, and
You meet
a lot
really
of you can hang
amazing
out again.
people. You meet really amazing people.
I agree.
That's the best part.
That's why we do it. It's great.
Yeah.
You get to share knowledge freely and enjoy that immediate level up. Being part of the building science communities changed my life. It's a real privilege.
I was talking to some young folks who were in a construction trades program at UMass Amherst recently, and it was very heartened to see their enthusiasm. And I hope there are more folks like you all who can help bring those folks along. You know, I think all of us can look to people in our past who have helped us get where we are. And it's our jobs, once we get to a certain level, to help others get there too.
We had a student from that program as our summer intern this year, paid summer intern.
It seems like they are on the right track.
I
If
think so.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's important work, you know. I think more importantly than making a good living, which is, of course is important, people can love their jobs and do an important work, and I think we should try and help them get there.
I think that's part of the reason that unites us all getting up here is
Yeah.
we all fundamentally love our jobs. It provides for our families, and we want to try and pass it forward, pay it forward into the industry if we can.
100%.
I always say there are probably easier ways to make a living than construction, and I'm guessing all of you would agree, but boy, at the end of the day, there's often something very cool about what you did, right? Making
a doubt.
stuff.
Make cool stuff, take pride in it, share it with the next one.
Yeah, protect people. You know, people need shelter is a basic human need, and I think it's easy to lose sight of how important that is. It's brought to mind when you see disasters happening, and
There's something
know.
that's so fundamentally fulfilling about going out and providing a place where people are going to live their lives.
yeah, and enjoy it.
Cool thing. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I know we're drawing to a close here, but I think it's important that we do recognize the
Sponsors.
tremendous investment that our sponsors have made to make this possible, supporting the Construction Performance Zone, which is education, supporting BS and Beer here on this stage today. You can see them on your screen, but these folks, they are your ally, they are your resource. If you go and visit them in their booth, you'll find that they've done millions of dollars of R&D, which I have not done on my site, but they have already done to make my job easier, to make my buildings more durable and comfortable. And the DuPonts, the Mitechs, the Hubers, the Andersons, the Rockwells, the Zenders, the Siegas, the Bosches, the SBCA, Stego, and TrueWork have all put us on this stage today, including providing the beer that you enjoyed. So if you get a chance, please visit them in their booth. Come back and see us here tomorrow on the Construction Performance Zone stage, where we'll continue to try and share knowledge freely, but probably with less beer.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night.
Cheers.
Well, that concludes our second show recorded live at the International Builders Show in Las Vegas, Nevada. Thanks very much again to the BS and Beer crew, the live audience, and the International Builders Show staff for hosting us at the Construction Performance Zone. We'll be back next week with our regular Fine Home Building podcast format. Please remember to send us your comments, questions, and suggestions to fhbpodcast@finehomebuilding.com, and please like, comment, or review us however you're listening. It helps other folks find the podcast. Stay safe, everyone. Keep craft alive. Thanks very much for listening.